Well, good morning, everybody, and I appreciate you joining us here at London Bridge. I'm Donna Paulk, and I have been doing a Facebook Live, Women of the Word, and so this morning I thought we would do something different. So I have a lot of a beautiful set of guests here with me, and I hope that this morning, as we discuss things that have been going on with this pandemic that we're facing, that it will be helpful to you. So I'm going to start out by introducing our guests to you. So I have Elizabeth Brinson on this side, and she is our pastor's wife, mother of 4. Then I have Taryn Holland, who is a Navy wife, mother of 5, and then I'm the women's ministry leader here, grandmother of 11, mother of 3. Then we have Diane, who's a licensed clinical social worker and mother of 2. Yes. And then we have Jordan, who's in the 11th grade. And so we have a variety of lifestyles right here on our panel. And so we were just hoping that we would be able to share some things that have been going on in our family, some of the changes that we've faced that might possibly help you as you're watching with some of the things that you've been dealing with. So we just have a couple of questions that we wanted to go through, and then Diane was going to share some helpful tools as a licensed clinical social worker that she shares that we hope will be helpful. And so I just wanted to start out by asking, how has this current pandemic change, this sudden change, affected you and your families? So who would like to start? So Taryn, would you maybe just start by sharing?
Definitely the biggest change for us has been schedule. Where before my children went to school, we'd get up in the morning, they'd have a quick breakfast, run out the door, then they'd do whatever they did at school, which was very structured and sustained by someone other than their mother. So now I get to build our structure. Then I'm not very self-motivated. So I think that would be definitely the biggest change in our
and then just being a homeschool mom.
Yes.
So
and back to the school. Yes, I now homeschool 4 of 5. Yes, 4 of 5 of my littles.
While you're managing the preschooler.
Yes. Yes. So there's a lot that kind of gets left to itself at this point.
And you're the PE teacher.
That one's kind of fun, though, because then it's like, get out of my house. Go outside and play for a while. Yeah. So that's definitely our biggest change.
So homeschool mom, PE teacher, and then you're trying to do life in between that while your husband is at sea.
So husband's deployed, and praise the Lord that my mom was able to come to our home, and so she's definitely helped out. So it's kind of taken dinners and such off of my plate, which I'm not a phenomenal cook anyway. We survive, but y'all don't really want my cooking. So that's been super, super helpful, but that's also been a change, is that my mother's living with us.
Yeah.
So that adds another person and a different dynamic and all, but the benefits of it outweigh all of the other.
Yeah.
So that, we've definitely I went from a working mom and spouse to now at home full time, and so that's been, there's lots of realities with that, and so this pandemic has completely changed our life,
the way you do family.
Oh yeah.
And so Elizabeth, would you share how this has kind of changed for you?
Sure. I feel like we're in such a unique time right now in our life, in this world, with what's going on, and yes, it has changed the dynamics of our family big time.
Well, it changed your job.
Right. So I'm not working right now. So no work. Greg still gets up and prepares his sermon. He comes to work and prepares for Sunday like normal. But so I have 2 high schoolers and 2 college students.
Who are now at home.
Yes, they're at home. So they're all trying to work together but separately to get assignments done online and to navigate through school and not be loud in front of everybody because they have to have quietness. So really, my mornings from all morning till about 2 or 3 are very quiet. Very quiet because everybody's working on assignments and doing stuff. And I find myself reading more, which is a praise because,
It's a good change.
yeah, that's a great thing.
Yeah.
And so I'm seeing a lot of positives on that end. But by 3 o'clock, my house comes alive. We're all talking, we're communicating, sharing, and we're cooking dinner together a lot of the times because I give them all assignments that they have to do to help for dinner. But because we all have to work together in this, don't we?
So that's one change is now you're cooking for 6.
Yes. Yes, exactly. So I was telling a friend that I feel sometimes like some kind of master chef because I'm always in the kitchen, always preparing food for this small army of mine. But
Those growing boys.
right.
Yeah.
I just hope it tastes like I'm a master chef.
Jordan, would you or Diane like to share how this change has affected
Yeah.
you?
So school's a lot different. Social life is a lot different as well.
Yes.
Time management is so much harder with school and having the schedule and saying
'Cause
I'm
you
going to
have to
do this.
discipline yourself, don't you?
Exactly, because you have the temptation of TikTok and Netflix and all of this when you have like 15 English assignments that you have to do.
So distraction
Oh, yes. Yes.
is a big,
Yeah.
can be a big thing. And
I definitely spent all day yesterday watching Netflix instead of doing any of my work.
but you're a work in progress,
Yes.
right?
Yes. And our teachers have been a little more lenient with
Have
like
they?
due dates and stuff. So that's definitely a praise.
Yeah, they're flexible. That's
Yes.
really good to hear.
Yeah.
Diane, would you like to share how, this has changed you your life personally?
Well, I'm used to having a quieter home where just, on the days that I wasn't going into the office, I would be at home and have just like my space, my routine to do administrative things. But now there's 4 of us because our son is home from college and he has never been home this long ever because when he was in high school, he was at gym or school. And so now he's like at home. And my husband's working from home, and so there's actually a lot more noise throughout the entire day with various music and radios, or not radios, but TikToks and different things playing. So that's been different. And then I'm also seeing all of my clients from telemedicine in a room at our home where I have like a sound machine and the door closed, and so like that'll be quiet for me, and then I'll go out into like what's going on in the space there. So that's been different, but positives and negatives as everyone tries to navigate that for sure, and just understanding how the children or the young adults are managing like those big changes and not necessarily understanding what to expect next.
Yeah. So just from a professional standpoint, how have you seen anxiety? How do you see anxiety when there are big changes that were unexpected in the lives of people?
Well, like talking to our community that's watching us, like helping them to understand, for all of us, we just mentioned like the biggest things that we're navigating through are like that sense of control and understanding like we had a structure, we had stuff built in for us, and that's a false sense of control which helps us to feel like that we're able to manage things. And with that being taken away from us, then that feeling of I don't know what to do, I don't know how to manage this is a huge that definitely brings forward that feeling of anxiety, which is a normal feeling. And in the concept of like fear and anxiety are natural, built into us. We need to have fear and anxiety in our lives because it helps us to understand, like, we're not going to walk out in front of a car that's moving because we have that built into us. So we don't want to get rid of fear and anxiety. We don't want to learn how to manage that. And if we haven't ever had to really have an awareness that it was something different, this definitely brings that to the forefront for like the majority of our world, not just our nation, but so.
Well, so I know that a lot of change does create anxiety, and just like you said, it's not all bad. Some of that's normal until you get into a rhythm, and then you get, you become more settled. But how do you know when this change triggers a deeper sense of anxiety? And do you have any thoughts or suggestions for us for when you know that there's something more going on?
Absolutely. Like having that understanding of like, is this normal? Like I have this increased awareness when I go out, I need to have a mask on and I'm supposed to have gloves on and I need to be washing my hands and keeping my distance, knowing that like we shouldn't have gone in that pathway because someone's walking there, so I'll go around even when we're outside. And that feels anxious because it's different, but we're able to come back and say, but that's what we're being told we're supposed to be doing to stay healthy and to not share something we have. So we are able to like, okay, that's a level of anxiety that we can learn to understand. When we're getting into that next level, that feeling of, I can't breathe, I feel like I'm going to throw up.
Yeah.
And then we stop doing the stuff that brings us
Yes.
joy. Like we're not even going to go outside
Yeah.
because I can't get to that point. Then we need to really look at like, is this a different level of anxiety or is this just me not learning how to manage this new normal or this rhythm that I'm trying to get into? And so it is a blessing that in my field that we're able to continue to work with people. Thankfully, all of the insurance companies have gone to a platform to allow us to do the telehealth so that we're able to continue to reach people and they're able to like navigate through like, is this just something that I'm able to like process and connect to right now, or is it some like, and most likely we're going to need to continue to work through this stuff for a while because we just don't know what's past today.
We don't.
Right.
But we can learn to work with today and managing what do I have control over today? Like,
Right.
you know, you're managing day by day. The kids have their routine. We're
Right.
doing dinner. You're building in structure the best you can. We're working on structure here.
Oh yeah.
Well, so ladies, how do you feel like you guys have been dealing with just the natural anxiousness of like, how long is it? Well, we know the kids aren't going back to school this year, but there are other uncertainties like, when is life going to go back to normal? And there's a lot of conflicting information about that. So how have y'all been dealing with just the uncertainty of kind of, and the anxiety that comes with like, I just don't know when we're going to be able to hang out with our friends or, you know, to go shopping.
Right. Kind of like what Diane was saying, you can't get stuck in that frame of mind
Yeah.
of, what if I get coronavirus? Oh, I have, you know, a scratchy throat or whatever it might be. You know, if you wake up and you feel nasal or whatever, don't go there in your head and think about what could happen or what I always call it, the what ifs.
Yeah.
What if this? What if that happened? What if I get it and I have to stay quarantined in my room and I can't take care of my family or I can't go get groceries for my 80-year-old, you know, parents
Mother.
that can't get out. Yeah. So we can't think like that or get stuck there. We have to keep moving forward in reality of what's happening right now in this life, what's going on in our world and in our homes.
So you're saying that when you struggle with those what ifs, you just try to stop it immediately and
Yes.
move on.
Yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
because they do come, don't they?
Right.
And we do. It is a challenge to stop. And I think that's one of the things, Diane, that you said is staying present in the day is important. Like today is today.
Right.
And so I know. For me, it's naming the emotion. Sometimes I'll feel a certain way, and I'm like, when I went to the store and there were people walking too close to me, I'm starting to get, and I'm thinking, okay, this is anxiety. Like, I'm now anxious because people are walking closer to me, and it's
Right.
making me anxious. So I had to say, okay, this is anxiety. I just need to walk away when someone walks closer, you know, and not freak out. So it's naming the anxiety.
Well,
So
I had gone shopping with my 21-year-old. We were in like Aldi, a small store, and he had said like he went to pick something up and he was walking towards me and there were people on either side of him, and he was like, I felt so anxious. Like he's like, I held my breath and closed my eyes as I walked through. He's like, and then he's like, I got past them and I was like, that was dumb. And he's like, he said it out loud to himself. He was able to understand that was the feeling of anxiety.
Yeah.
And that was something that helped him to process through it. But there are so many of us that we do get caught up in that what if. And if I may like share some grounding exercises, you know, some of the things to help us when we start spinning with that, like we have our breath with us all the time. And sometimes like if you like, when you're in that moment to be able to say, I'm feeling anxious, we don't want to do those deep breaths where we're like, because that's going to keep us stuck in that feeling.
Right.
But if we're able to take that slow breath in, and it's like like 4 counts in, so you're breathing in 4 slow counts through your nose, and it's not like, it's really just count to 4 as you're breathing in, and you want to be able to feel it all the way down into your stomach, so that you're really getting that nice calming breath, and then a slow 5 count breath out. Because what you're doing is, instead of sitting in your
You're
head and spinning,
refocusing.
you're refocusing and you're
Yeah.
coming into present. And we also have our 5 senses with us. And if you can go through and name something for each of your senses, there's lots of different ways to play with our senses to bring that back down. And, you know, simple things like if you really are like, I can't think of all of that stuff, you can just put your fingers and, you know, feel your pulse. A lot of times if our pulse is racing, just focusing on it will help us to bring it to a calmer place, because you're just sitting there and you're being present in that, getting out of those like spinning big feelings. Now, we don't want to ignore that we're feeling anxious. It's
Right.
very important to label that that's
Yeah.
the feeling. But if we are in that moment, we're not able to really like come back through.
Yeah, and so if we're able to at least name what we're going through, acknowledge like this is anxiety. I mean, there are uncertainties, and then I think we're better able to help our families and even our friends. And so that's really my next question. How have you dealt with this with your family, or have your kids mentioned this, or, you know, are you talking about it, or are your friends hearing? So what do you ladies think?
Well, I think that I really appreciated your breathing exercise, because I was just doing that while you were talking. And we're out. So that was great for the
And you're looking
anxiety that
very
I-
relaxed.
Yeah, I
Very
feel
relaxed.
much more relaxed. I should take this into my home. So within my house, I also have to say that hearing you say that your house is quiet, and your house is typically quiet. My oldest is 11. There's no quiet
No.
from 7 o'clock in the morning until whenever I tell them to go to bed.
You will get to the season, I promise.
Yeah, it's coming. It is not here. So I'm looking at y'all like quiet. And because of the false sense of control and that we had with the schools setting the structures, and I had everybody where they needed to be, and then I could come home and everybody could do their homework, and then there was, you know, more of that false sense of control that has now just blown up in my face. This might not sound like the most professional thing, but I have definitely had to drop my expectations. That, you know, the laundry is still in a giant pile on my couch, and
That's okay.
until I get
Right.
it done.
Yes.
And the kind of support that I give myself for that is nobody's coming to my house anyway. So I don't have to
True.
make it look good for anybody. I mean, it does need to be functional for us, but to say that is that I have had to drop my expectation of that everything may not get done when I expect it to, but as long as the majors are getting done, everybody's fed, they have clothes on. Whether they keep them on, that's another thing, but they have clothes on, and they're fed, they've got clothes, their homework's getting done, like the majors are taken care of, but not to focus in on those smaller things. And then just to say that I'm not so anxious about catching COVID-19 because I don't have time to think about it.
Right.
Because I'm running so much through my home now, because it's my center.
Now, have your kids mentioned, do you think they've detected any of this that's going on, or are they just more anxious because they're not playing baseball and they can't play with their friends like they did? So where do you see that anxiety? And
I wish that I had more knowledge on like child psychology, because I know that kids are thinking so much more than they will ever express, and I don't have that knowledge, so I don't really know. But when I see my 3 and 4-year-old throwing more fits, I'm like, that's not normal.
Yeah.
My 9 and 10-year-old are chewing their nails a lot, or rocking a little bit more than usual,
Yeah.
or crying when I'm a screamer too, and that's really bad. But I am, so it's like that scream normally doesn't provoke crying, and it is now.
Yeah. So
So,
just a heightened sense of behavior,
Yes.
and
they
maybe.
do talk about, oh, if we catch the COVID, or don't share your germs, I don't want the COVID, or
Yeah.
you know.
So they're picking up.
They are definitely, especially the
Right.
older ones. The little ones, not so much, but the older ones are. Yeah, and I guess even now that I think about it, I'm not really doing anything to combat that.
Yeah. But I mean,
I'm
you're
not intentionally,
recognizing it.
um,
Yeah.
I'm not intentionally targeting that.
I
Maybe
think
I should.
The important thing is to validate that their behavior is their communication.
It
If you're
is.
able to validate that they're expressing that, and that their feelings are important, and so to be able to give them that structure and that comfort, because that is a big thing.
Yeah.
And
It's very
kids,
important.
they like to internalize a lot of things. Like you said, they don't express themselves like adults can, and some adults don't even express themselves sometimes. But yeah, you don't know what they're feeling inside. And I don't know, when the special reports come on from the president or our governor, it's like, it's important. And when a child sees that, to them, I feel like they're thinking, what is going on? Everybody's quiet. Mom and dad are watching this. This is affecting me, but I don't know how. You know,
Yeah.
so I can definitely see how a child would be a little anxious.
So, Jordan, because you do represent the younger generation, do you watch the news?
Honestly, not really.
No.
Sometimes, like, my family's watching it and I'll listen in, but
So,
I-
do you get anxious when you hear the news, or?
yeah, I just
Okay.
feel like it's all negative
yeah.
and like this is an awful thing we're going through. So I just try to block it out as much as I can, because like I know where my faith is,
Yeah.
and it's not in the news, and it's not in like
Yes.
what is going on out there. So I just try to like stay in my own lane and not try to feed into
So,
any of it.
Jordan, when you get anxious, does your behavior change? Like, do you withdraw more? Do you get quieter? I mean, what have you noticed about your internal self, like when
Yeah.
you're feeling anxious?
When I'm anxious, I bake.
You bake.
Yeah, yeah. So I've been.
So I need to call you.
Yeah. I've been baking a lot during this time.
Okay, because how does that help? How does baking help?
It brings my mind away from
Does
everything
it?
that's going
and
on.
you're focused on.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe I should try it. I don't know. Maybe
I
not.
craft. for
You
that same
craft.
purpose.
Yeah.
Yeah, that I can see it done.
So,
accomplished.
Diane, do
Exactly.
you have any tips for families, like when they're dealing with multiple children who might be displaying anxiety? Do you have any thoughts on, how we could help them through this?
I think, like I was sharing, like the validation. I mean, we represent here all the different ages of children. I mean, we have the college students who are home, who are displaced. Like, they've just lost this whole year of their college. My son lost a competition season. There's a lot of this unknown and this frustration and disappointment. And, maybe they're not expressing it out with words. Maybe it's expressing through behaviors or anything. But giving them that time and that space to feel validated.
Yeah.
And when they're ready to talk, which is usually late at night when you're tired and you want to go to bed, but it's to be able to give them that time where you're there to listen, and let them know that you can hear what they're having to say. We're oftentimes want to be quick to turn it around. It's fine, we're fine, we have our faith, we're safe. And we miss that opportunity to validate that. Let them talk. It's okay for them to say, I am afraid. I know you're afraid. It's okay to have that fear. And then we can come back around and talk about, like you said, with your faith and knowing that foundation. But if we just skip past their feelings, then we're missing that opportunity for sure.
So even helping them by talking it through. Yeah.
And definitely structure. I have one of the trainings, I've taken several trainings during this time frame just to make sure that I'm able to work with the people. And one of them, the acronym that they gave was STRONG. And it's just like giving you that basic outline. How do I stay present and support the people? that like myself, I have to do that for me and all the people that I'm working with and my children, my family.
Yeah.
So strong is that you are having your structure, your schedule, your routine, your sleep, that you're taking, if there's any medications or any vitamins or anything that that normally are helpful for you, that you still take that you're avoiding, those temptations, those negative self-talk, the negative temptations, drugs, alcohol, avoiding that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
That's the R, so that's to resist.
Yeah.
And then the O is once daily, building mastery. So like the crafting, the baking, reading, something that is your skill or your thing that's helping you to feel like that you have an accomplishment. Some people are taking classes or it's once daily, being intentional that you're building a new skill or having a mastery of something. Nutrition, so many people that we're talking to, like, my clothes aren't fitting, I'm not doing this. Coming back to, just because you're at home or you're having less structure, like trying to have that nutrition. And then the G is get exercise. You don't have to go out and run 3 miles or bike. Like, you can go for a walk with your neighbors or whoever and social distance during the walk. So that's just like a nice thing but that helps you with your kids because they need all of that as well.
Yep. And so just in kind of closing, we have a couple of minutes left. Can you just share how God has helped you personally through this pandemic?
I think to kick it off, I was resigning from my position. It was a part-time position that just really fit into my controlled world. And I resigned from that, and then the next week the COVID hit and all my kids were magically in my house and under my structure. And I just saw that really as the Lord's hand of already preparing me for something that I had no clue was coming. And so now I am more capable, more able to be some of what they need, because heaven knows I can't be all of it. But yeah, I've looked at that as very much of a grace gift from Him,
Right.
Just providing even when I didn't know the provision was needed. So.
Yeah. So that's how you've seen. How about you, Elizabeth? How has God really helped you through this current?
Just going to His Word daily, just leaning into Him for strength and peace and comfort, just to know how to navigate through the days. I haven't had this much time off in a long time, so I want it to be purposeful. I want every day, I don't want to waste time. So if there's something He wants me to do with, giving something to my neighbors or speaking to my neighbors or making something for someone, I want to have the ear ready to hear
So
what
a
He's
couple
saying.
of things. So serving people,
Yes.
focusing on the Word. So how about you, Jordan? Has there been anything specific that's the Lord's helped you with through this difficulty?
I think with school and having the Google Meets for them to talk us through everything, like my math teacher, we sit down and we work out every problem, and I can understand pre-calc
Aw.
without breaking down and crying. And if this happened 20 years ago, that wouldn't be available for us to have.
So you've seen the Lord work in getting more help that
Of
you
course,
might
yeah.
not have had.
Yeah.
Oh, that's really, really neat. Well, we are down to our last minute. And so first I'd like to thank Diane for being here. Diane works at Eden Counseling, and we really appreciate all of the helpful tools that you've given us. I feel like she's given us some
Yes,
great ways.
thank you.
But most of all, I would like to thank you for being with us. And we do know that God is with us. And I would completely agree with everything that's been shared here, that the Word of God has helped in focusing on other people, how we can serve. I think the practical things of baking. And so there are so many things that God has given us. But specifically for me, it's been Isaiah 26:3. And it says, that I will give her perfect peace. And I say her because I'm meaning me, whose mind is steadfast because she trusts in me. And so I've been trying to reframe my thinking just like you have. Anytime it goes to the what ifs, it's like, God, give me a steadfast mind. So a couple of things is just surrendering to the Lord, the negative thinking, and then exchanging that, like Philippians 4 says, that whatever is good, whatever is noble, whatever is praiseworthy, think on these things. So really focusing on who Christ is, the character of God during this time, you know, committing it to prayer, but then asking other people to pray for me. I'm really struggling, you know, I'm anxious, this is different. And so all of those things have helped us. And so I want to just say thank you for being with us. And if you think this would be helpful for anybody, would you share it with them? And we will look forward to seeing you next week on Wednesday Morning Word with London Bridge Baptist Church Women's Ministry. Thank you.
Thank you.